Budget showdown averted. House lawmakers passed a spending resolution, keeping the federal government funded through December 20th. So they basically just extended it by a month. The move buys Congress more time, but sets up a December battle over one of the president's key campaign promises, a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. Joining us right now is former McCain campaign advisor, former Congressional Budget Office director, and American Action Forum president, Doug Holtz-Eakin. Doug, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, Maria.
So it looks like we're just going to be living from continuing resolution to continuing resolution. I mean, you got another month here. How do you see things?
I think that's exactly right. There's no genuine agreement on how to spend the money underneath the totals they agreed to last summer. We had this little kumbaya moment when everyone thought, oh, they're going to get along. They understand how to do this. But they don't really agree. The border wall is the key contention. And I think when we get to December 20th, we'll see another continuing resolution, and I wouldn't put it out of the possibility that they'll just do it for the whole year. They won't be able to agree in an election year.
This is all politics then, Doug. I mean, instead of just funding the military and understanding what the military may need, we're having fights over the president's use of certain monies to build the wall, and it's a small number in comparison to the budget.
It's an incredibly tiny number to tie up all of this. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And if you think about it, in the past 10 years, there has been exactly 1 year, and that was 2017, when the president sort of did his national defense strategy, put together a plan, went to Congress, said this is the money needed to do it, and they funded the military based on the threats that face the United States and the capabilities that the military requires. Every other year, it's been all politics. And so we really are damaging our capacity over the long term with these protracted budget negotiations.
Doug, John Hilsenrath here. I want to talk to you about the bigger picture, budget deficits. We're now running trillion-dollar deficits. Whenever we write about this in the Wall Street Journal, it really angers and bothers our readers. Why can't the government balance its own budget when I have to every day? When you talk to people in Washington, they don't seem to be that concerned about it. When you talk to economists, they say, well, interest rates are very low, so we don't have to worry about it. What's your view? Are trillion-dollar budget deficits a problem?
They're a very big problem. On the interest rates, sure, it's great that interest rates are low, but that would be important only if you were having deficits because of interest costs. Throw out the interest costs, and we still have a big gap between revenues and spending. So our fundamental problem is the primary deficit. That primary deficit, which is the non-interest component, is driven by mandatory spending. You know these numbers: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Affordable Care Act, the large entitlement spending programs. And there's no appetite to take on the very real need to reform these, both from a budgetary point of view and from the point of view that these programs aren't serving their beneficiaries very well.
And
let's think about Social Security.
Let's talk about priorities a little bit, too. We have this big fight with China going on right now. The government is pouring all kinds of money into its favorite industries, into semiconductors and airlines and all kinds of stuff that they think is going to dominate the 21st century. We're not spending a lot of money on research, basic research. Are we going to fall behind the Chinese if they're funding all these priority programs and we're just giving money away to the
in some areas? I think we have
retirees.
Yeah.
It's a really good point. I mean, we have three problems in the budget. One is the mismatch between revenue and spending. Two is the fact that the programs driving the spending don't perform very well. That's the Social Securities and Medicares. But the third, and this is the one you're pointing to, is we're spending our money on legacy programs like Social Security that are largely giving money to the elderly and to other targeted populations, and we're underfunding the things our founders saw as the role of government: basic research, infrastructure, education, national security. And so the mismatch of where the money's going is going to hurt us. The places where the budget could actually aid the future are being deeply underfunded.
And I'll just add one thing. The more money we have to borrow, the more power we hand to China. That is who we're borrowing the money from. It's one of the top two largest owners of our outstanding debt in terms of foreign owners, and it's just an abomination.
And by the way, Dagan, with all the borrowing we're doing, all the mismatch in investment and saving, our trade deficit is getting bigger, too.
Yeah. Right. Well, look, we're focused on impeachment. That's all that's taking all the oxygen out of the room, the budget funding as well as USMCA. So House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Richard Neal fielded questions on the trade agreement yesterday, and he weighed in on a potential timeline for USMCA. Listen to this, Doug. I want to get your reaction.
It's critical to try and get this done before the end of the year.
I agree with that. I think that it would be a good idea also to, I think would help stabilize markets.
Congress is already going to have to deal with government funding deadlines as well as likely impeachment in the next few weeks. Do you really think USMCA can get through in that time frame?
I do.
What's your reaction, Doug? You think we're going to see this come to the floor by the end of the year?
I think it's pretty simple. The Speaker is holding USMCA for those moderates in her caucus who need some help. And when they go and take an impeachment vote, they're going to need the help, and then they'll hold the vote on USMCA. So they're tied together.
More politics.
The minute they wrap up the impeachment inquiry, then you'll see some real progress on USMCA.
Yeah,
not
it's
before.
sad. It's a sad state of affairs when it's all politics driving these important decisions, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we've gotten used to it, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's important to emphasize, I think, to people watching this, for example, on things like the budget deficit, absence of a crisis doesn't mean things are okay. We are every day paying the price of these large deficits because they eat into our capacity to invest in our future, and that's the price we're paying.
Well said, Doug. Good to see you this morning. Thank you. Doug Holtz-Eakin joining us there in Washington.